On July 26, 2018, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte signed the Bangsamoro Organic Law that finally put an end to the long decades of civil conflicts between Muslim Filipinos and the Philippine governments.
This is why today I proudly join my Moro brothers and sisters as we convene this peace assembly in support of the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Your approval of this law will not only serve as an expression of your desire to end more than half a century of armed struggle in the region. It will also serve as a testament to your determination to bring genuine peace and development in Muslim Mindanao through an autonomous government that truly represents and understands the needs of the people. God must be good to us. The fact that we have reached this point after so many years of negotiation and interruptions, we are here, inshallah. God is great. Allahu Akbar.
Moro conflict started with a history of injustice and marginalization experienced by the Moros in southern Philippines. It was in the late 1890s when Philippines was ceded to the United States from the grasp of Spanish colonizers. This resulted onto Moros' wielding resistance against Americans. A battle occurred, and as part of it, Americans encouraged Christians to live in South and depleted the population of Muslims. The conflict even got magnified when Muslim military trainees were massacred in Corridor, Bataan, under the regime of former President Marcos to cover up a failed plot to retrieve Sabah that was part of the Sulu. This was written in the history as the Jabida Massacre.
It is believed that a total of about 60 Filipino Muslims were recruited, and most of them remain unaccounted for. Various armed groups and rebel leaders have for decades demanded separate state for Moro communities in Mindanao. More than 100,000 people have been killed and millions more displaced.
With what happened at Corridor and the continuous bias treatment for Moros, a group called Moro National Liberation Front emerged in 1972 after martial law was implemented. In 1976, Tripoli Agreement was signed by Professor Misori and Philippine government representative Carmelo Z. Barbero under the command of Marcos. This aims the unity of provinces with the central government, but only 4 provinces voted and the peace accord was stamped as a failure.
Zamboanga del Norte, North Cotabato, Maguindanao, Sultan Kudarat, Lanao del Norte, Lanao del Sur, Davao del Sur, South Cotabato at Palawan. Bagamat nakikiisa umano ang OIC sa international community sa pagbati sa Philippine government at Moro Islamic Liberation Front dahil sa pinasok na framework agreement, nananatili pa rin ang agam-agam nito sa nasabing kasunduan.
In 1996, the administration of former President Fidel V. Ramos proposed a final peace agreement with the MNLF group to establish full implementation of the Tripoli Agreement. This agreement turned the MNLF leader, the first governor of newly established ARMM, or the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. However, only 5 provinces and only 1 city agreed to the regional government. Again, the peace treaty failed. Due to the multiple failure of agreements with MNLF, Philippine government continued the negotiation with the other group called the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Ramos deliberately talks peace with MILF leader Salamat Hashim.
Today, we not only witness history, we make history. All over Mindanao, one senses a tremendous reserve of vigor and talent, waiting for an opportune moment to be unleashed. And that moment has come. And the growth that this peace should generate will become its own assurance that never again must Filipinos be so desperate as to take up arms against one another.
Miswari became the first governor of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. But peace remained elusive. Only 5 provinces and 1 city voted to join the regional government. Miswari's reign was marred by corruption and mismanagement. His failed peace set the stage for the rise of the MNLF's breakaway group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. The Ramos administration initiated talks with the MILF led by its founder, Salamat Hashim.
Yet, during Estrada administration, the peace talks shattered when former President Estrada declared an all-out war against MILF. When he was impeached under unrelated circumstances, the peace negotiation resumes with Arroyo administration.
After 17 years of negotiations, the MILF finally signed a peace deal with the Aquino administration in March 2014. The deal aims to create an autonomous region that would be responsive to the needs and history of the Moros. In exchange, the MILF would decommission 10,000 to 15,000 troops and thousands of firearms. It is the biggest step towards closing Mindanao's painful history of violence. Are we willing to take the next difficult steps?
The government's armed forces attacked the rebel base, Camp Omar, with the casualties of 23 rebels and 2 government soldiers. An encounter in Lanao del Norte that took life of 41 rebels and 5 government soldiers on March 15 to 17, 2001. The president wants to end the conflict with overwhelming force because peace agreements are rejected and neglected by the MILF. On March 21, 2000, President Estrada declared an all-out war against the MILF, and their succession groups attacked the town of Causwagan, Lanao del Norte, and took hundreds of residents in hostage. The government forces captured many rebels and killed many rebels without causing too much casualties on their own. The MILF requested a ceasefire and agreed to resume negotiation with the government representative in March 29, 2002. But the MILF withdrew with the registration with the government on June 9, 2000. On June 19 to 22, 2001, the Philippine government and the MILF signed a Tripoli peace agreement in Tripoli, Libya. The government and the MILF representative the formal ceasefire on August 7, 2001 in Malaysia. On May 6, 2002, during the 4th round of peace negotiation, the Philippine government and the MILF signed its agreement for peace. President Arroyo announces that they are not continuing the all-out war of the former President Estrada and that they are now open for peace negotiations and would give over 700 cities and towns to the MILF. But the Supreme Court said that it is unconstitutional because the president would give the sovereignty and the territory of the rebels. The MILF isn't happy about this. And then 2 commanders of the rebel groups attacked Christian areas in Mindanao that killed around 400 people. Because of these actions, People think that peace was out of reach and it can't be reached. Some say it is war of religion, but it's not. Muslim and Christian Filipinos are Filipinos, no matter what's their belief and religion. A peace talk that is meditated by Malaysia is resumed on December 8, 2009. Government forces and the MLF clashes even though the peace talks are still ongoing. On August 2011, President Aquino attends and organizes a secret meeting to the chairman of the MLF in Japan. This is the first time that the President of the Philippines and the chairman of the MLF met face-to-face for almost 5 decades. President Aquino wants to create a new political autonomous region on October 7, 2012. On the other hand, the MALF wants to finish for peace talks before the president steps down. Framework agreement on the Bangsamoro in Manila on October 15, 2012. This framework agreement provided for the establishment of the autonomous Bangsamoro, replacing the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM. Representatives of the government and the MILF signed a peace agreement in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, on January 25, 2014. Representatives of the government and the MILF signed the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, including the power sharing and wealth sharing agreements, in Manila on March 27, 2014. After a long and bloody conflict that for seeking independence of the Muslim rebel groups for about 45 years is almost about to end. The war that killed more than 12,000 Filipinos and displaced around 2 million. With this reason, the economy of our brothers and sisters in the southern Mindanao is crippled. Almost 5 decades of war, a war of ideology, a war of independence and sovereignty. Peace is what every Filipino wants. Peace talks and ceasefire are implemented, but there are split groups of MILF, which is the Abu Sayyaf, that causes violence in killing tourists, missionaries, and local Christians. Yet, the Philippine government and the MILF continues the peace talks. The final peace pact was signed on March 27, 2014 during the presidency of Benigno Aquino. After a 15-long negotiation for peace agreements with the help of the Malaysian government.
This framework agreement paves the way for a final enduring peace in Mindanao. It brings all former secessionist groups into the fold. No longer does the Moro Islamic Liberation Front aspire for a separate state. Any proposed law resulting from this framework will be subject to ratification through a plebiscite. Once approved, there will be elections. National government will continue to exercise exclusive powers of defense and security, foreign policy, monetary policy, and coinage, citizenship, and naturalization. The Constitution and lawful processes shall govern the transition to the Bangsamoro. The work does not end here. There are still details that both sides must hammer out. Promises must be kept, institutions must be fixed, and new capacities must be built nationally and regionally in order to effectively administer the Bangsamoro.
In the term of President Duterte, he was eager to bring out federalism in the Philippines. The BBL and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region are a part of that endeavor. The next important step is the drafting and passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, which Aquino said it would be a priority step. Both houses of Congress promised to pass the bill to create a new entity and expand the existing autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao.
The government aims to put in place by 2015 the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, serving as an interim government. Aquino said before elections in 2016, when his term ends. The key points of the deal are title, autonomy, disarmament, powers, taxes or revenues, Islamic law, territory, enabling law, plebiscite, transitional authority, and elections. According to Article 4, Section 8, the draft basic law provides that the Bangsamoro shall respect and adhere to the Philippines' international treaties and agreements. Thus, whatever power that the Bangsamoro may exercise over its territory must be consistent with and not contravene the country's international obligations and commitments. Nevertheless, given the highly personalized politics of the Philippines, the question is whether there will be sustainability to the peace implementation after Duterte steps down as a president.
10 days ago, I signed into law the organic law for Bangsamoro region for Muslim Mindanao, which I hope will finally end the decades of conflict that is rooted in the Bangsamoro's fight for self-determination and recognition of their unique identity. May this serve as the final trajectory for the attainment of genuine peace, stability, good governance in Muslim Mindanao. I ask my Bangsamoro brothers and sisters as well as the indigenous communities and Christian settlers living within the Bangsamoro areas to actively participate in constructive discussion about the law in your homes, in your villages, and communities. But more importantly, I encourage you to take part of this upcoming plebiscite so that you may express your sovereign will through the ballot. Let us work together as we continue the healing and reconciliation process. Let us give this law a chance to address the Bangsamoro people's aspiration for genuine autonomy, while preserving our bond as a single nation and affirming the sovereignty of the indivisible Republic of the Philippines. Together, let us shatter the dark clouds that once loomed over our nation for generations and welcome the dawn of a brighter future, not only for the Bangsamoro people, but for all peace-loving Filipinos. Maraming salamat at mabuhay ang nagkaisang Pilipinas.
War is not the solution. Christians, Muslims, and any religion, we are equal to one another. We are one in blood. We are Filipinos. We should respect one another and united as one. The important is the tranquility of mind. And peace of soul. And at the end of the day, we will be united and there will be no blood to be spared anymore.